ओवरऑल इन द पाकिस्तानी कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर इसमें कितना आपको लगता है कि मोर ऑफ अ गिमिक्स है और कितना जो है वो एक्चुअल पीपल वांटेड द चेंज?
Talha, there's certain things that have changed and thank God they have. Boards were told that you need to have more women representations.
Do you also get tired of the chai as well? Like कि यार बस बहुत हो गया है.
That whole thrill as a mom for me to look at Lipton is the same thrill that I had when my sons Ayan and Aman were starting to run and starting to grow up into young adults.
The perception that I had of the women in a professional sphere was very different from what the reality was.
Work-life balance, is this a myth?
It's absolutely not a myth.
No, Lipton is hugely committed to ensuring employee development and taking well-being alongside.
We've normalized conversations around mental health.
What is HR? Human resource? I mean, it's human beings.
Family support आपको career के अंदर आपने उस कैसे देखा?
Can women have it all? So we don't know yes or no, but are women doing it all? Yes.
Is there any study as well कि ख़वातीन ज़्यादा मेहनत करती हैं work spaces के अंदर?
Because we have to prove more, right? One major reason I took up finance was because it was such a taboo कि only males can just do finance.
हमें जरा सा definitions and titles के beyond move करना पड़ेगा. Will there be a bias? The more I believe, they will believe there is a bias. Assume there is no bias.
One advice that I always tell them to have an open mind.
Hi everyone, welcome to a very special episode. आप सारों ने लिप्टन का नाम तो सुना होगा. लिप्टन की चाय भी I'm sure आपने पी होगी. आज हमारे साथ लिप्टन की प्रेसिडेंट फरहीन मौजूद हैं अलॉन्ग विद द अदर कलीग्स, और हम थोड़ा सा कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर के हवाले से बात करेंगे और कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर में स्पेशली जो है वो ख़वातीन का रोल और जनरली जेनजी उसको किस तरीके के साथ देखती है. थैंक यू एवरीवन फॉर कमिंग ऑन टू दिस वेरी स्पेशल एपिसोड. बिफोर वी गो इनटू द कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर, लिटिल बिट ऑफ द कॉन्टेक्स्ट. आई हैवंट वर्कड एंड इन पाकिस्तान फुल टाइम, तो मुझे बड़ा फैसिनेट करता है कि यार ये जो पूरा कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड है, बड़ी लोग कहते हैं जी अय्याशी होती है, कोई कहते हैं जी बड़ा टॉक्सिक कल्चर है. सो देयर आर लॉट ऑफ स्टोरीज सो विच आई वुड जस्ट वांटेड टू एक्सप्लोर टुडे. सो फरहीन, थोड़ा सा मुझे अगर आप बताएं, आप स्पेशली एज अ मार्केट लीडर, एज अ वुमेन, ओवरऑल आपने ज़ाहिर मार्केट में बहुत डेकेड्स काम किया है, ओवरऑल इवॉल्व कैसे हुआ है पूरा का पूरा कॉर्पोरेट कल्चर, और स्पेशली उसमें भी जो है एज अ फीमेल यू नो टॉप लीडर के तौर पर, मतलब 80s में अगर हम सुने या even in like 60s 70s बहुत कम सुनने में आता था, like globally as well. तो ज़ाहिर लिप्टन में हम देख रहे हैं कि you're leading, so how the whole sort of ecosystem changed overall?
Talha, there's certain things that have changed and thank God they have. When you're talking about a toxic culture in corporate or a yashika culture, to be honest, no culture will be either the extreme of being very toxic or being very full of opportunities or a yashi, right? Over the last 20 years that I've been in this industry, now almost 24 actually, two things have significantly improved. Ek ye that from a statutory perspective, from a legal perspective, boards were told that you need to have more women representation. So there was a certain percentage that was put down by our statutory requirement कि board में आप इतनी औरतों को रखें. I think that was a very significant step up for corporates to almost be forced into equal representation of women. Not equal, but a certain representation of women. What that did was, there were more and more women that got to the board. More and more of those women became mentors and coaches for the ones that were looking up and saying, I wish and I hope and I get inspired by looking at those who are on existing boards. जब एक side पे ये हो रहा था, from a push of the industry to have more representation, on the other side, there were women who were taking on that role very seriously of, since we're on the board, let's inspire the ones who are not and let's try to pull them up. It really is all about women leaning in. I went to an organization where over the last 20 years they've had, mashallah, 2 female chairmen. All I remember as a management trainee or as a young manager is looking up to them and saying, if they can get there, so can I. And I think that's so very essential. In the role that I play for Lipton, a big part of my motivation, of course, there is a company that needs to be, managed. There is a big sales force that needs to be managed. वो strategy of a business के साथ, I think there's a very inherent payback that I need to do to the corporate world, which is to look at other youngsters and say, if I can make it, anyone can.
अच्छा, इसमें जो बोर्ड की आपने बात की, उसमें ग्लोबली सारे हम लोग देखें हैं या पाकिस्तान में भी बहुत एक ये भी परसेप्शन आता है कि यार a lot of time it's only the strategic positioning के लिए, और it's like very cool these days कि आपने let's say startups है तो आपके पास female founder हो तो आपके पैसे ज़रा इकट्ठा करना ईजी हो जाता है and all of it. So overall ज़ाहिर है बहुत से लोग तो जेन्युइनली जो है, जैसे आप अब क्योंकि लीड कर रही हैं तो ऑब्वियसली आपका पर्सपेक्टिव नीचे आपकी टीम के हवाले से बहुत डिफरेंट होगा, बट ओवरऑल इन द पाकिस्तानी कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर इसमें कितना आपको लगता है कि मोर ऑफ अ गिमिक्स है और कितना जो है वो एक्चुअल पीपल वांटेड द चेंज?
So I'm not going to sit here and say that कुछ भी gimmick नहीं है. Definitely I know of certain setups. I know of, unfortunately, even certain women who might not be the most capable and are given titles because that supports the agenda of their organization. I think independently, I don't want to be seen as somebody who's commenting on, that gimmick. Let me just tell you what Lipton is extremely crystal clear on. हम deliberately, as an HR policy, एक certain percentage of women का ban नहीं लगा रहे. We feel we're against that. And I'll tell you why. If there are, so I'll tell you what we're clear about and what we will never do as Lipton. I don't want to force fit women as a percentage into my organization. If there are two people equally capable, we'll always choose the woman. But if that woman isn't capable, just because a certain number has to be shown to my global board, that is not what Lipton Pakistan will ever stand for. In fact, Lipton at the Karachi head office also manages Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. We manage a setup called BSPAN, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. We very proudly have a lot of representation of women. Almost 20% of our, in fact, Pakistan ka, the BSPAN board is approximately 33% women. Will I push myself to make it 50? No. If I'm hiring for my board and I see women who are equally as capable as the men that I'm interviewing, for sure the woman will get that role. But it has to be on equitable capability versus me just pushing for एक certain number है वो मुझे show करना है. Because one wrong choice, Talha, actually devastates the organization at the bottom also. Then all the young girls that we are giving that hope and inspiration to look up to somebody who might not be the most capable and starts to think titles are more important than actual impact on the organization. And we are crystal clear as Lipton that it has to be the impact that a woman creates on my organization versus a certain percentage that she's representing in the organization.
Right. Before I go to Leena, on a lighter note, सर आप लोग हर वक्त लिप्टन के बाद आपने तो स्कार्फ भी जो है वो है. Like, do you also get tired of the chai as well? Like कि यार बस बहुत हो गया है. मतलब अक्सर होता है कि अब हम लोग, to be honest, कुछ clients के साथ काम करते हैं फूड इंडस्ट्री में, तो वो जब ब्रांड सामने भी आता है ना दुकान में, तो I'm like कि भाई, like you're not this.
Talha, there's something because I have two children, I have two sons, there's something very maternal about me, and I think that a lot of women can identify with that. We actually do become moms of the jobs that we do. For me, when I go home, it's my sons that preoccupy me absolutely, mind, soul, body. When I'm at work, it is Lipton that's absolutely preoccupying me, mind, soul, and body, right? So I think there is that little, kind of almost influence of a mother taking over. And right now, I'm very much in that stage of Lipton where it is a toddler which is trying to run. So it's a very old brand, but a very young company in Pakistan, because we were with Unilever till 2021. We only separated about two years back. So it's, in my mind, it's almost a toddler that I've seen being given birth to and is now starting to run. And that whole thrill as a mom for me to look at Lipton is the same thrill that I had when my sons Ayan and Aman were starting to run and starting to grow up into young adults.
Like, amazing. I want to go to Leena. Like, you recently graduated. और आपने भी पूरे बचपन में मेरे ख्याल से लिप्टन इज समथिंग जो हम बहुत अरसे से ज़ाहिर है, बेशक वो टीवी के एड्स हो या जनरली जो है वो घरों के अंदर, आपने कभी सोचा था कि यू विल बी कमिंग हियर एंड वर्किंग इन लिप्टन?
Yeah, so honestly, when I was in IB, I've always, dreamt of being in an FMCG, especially somewhere where you can, in an FMCG brand where I can, really be in the marketing function and, represent a big company. So I've always dreamt of being in big companies, yes.
और जनरली जो है वो आपका बाहर से क्या परसेप्शन था कि कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर के अंदर जो है ओवरऑल किस तरह का माहौल है, और उससे भी ज़्यादा कि जो ख़वातीन का रोल है या किस तरह का atmosphere होगा? So what was your sort of perception when you were in university?
Honestly, the perception that I had of women in a professional sphere was very different from what the reality was.
What was the perception before?
My perception was, that there is going to be gender bias. Women might not be able to progress in career because they are female, and because women are also, they have to also maintain their work-life balance. So I always felt that, it's going to be different for women. However, because Lipton was my first company to work at after graduation, my reality was very different and better from what I had anticipated, to be very honest. Initially, if I'll be very honest, I was cautious. I did approach my career with, cautious optimism, being fully aware of the gender bias that exists. And, I was very scared also. But honestly, after I started working at Lipton, the culture was great. And it kind of gave me hope that, if a company like Lipton can do good, there's obviously things are going to evolve and going to be better also. So yeah, that was one thing. And also for me, I think not just this, but when I saw that, the president of the company was female and, followed by other different female leads in the company, it made me realize that gender equality here wasn't just a buzzword, but a lived reality. So, that was something that really gave me hope. Yeah.
सही महविश, मैं आपके पास आऊँगा थोड़ा सा. अभी जैसे हमने लीना ने कहा, स्पेशली जो वर्क स्पेस है कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड के अंदर, जेनजी और यंग जो लॉट है वो बहुत ज़्यादा आ रही है, एंड दे आर नॉट यूज्ड टू दिस 9 to 5. उनके ज़रा अपना एक वो होता है कि यार, एज एन एग्जाम्पल, लाइक वी रन अ मीडिया कंपनी है, हम लोग का ये होता है कि हम लोग कंटेंट, हमारे तो बहुत डाइवर्स कंटेंट है, रोज़ाना इट्स अ न्यू पीस ऑफ कंटेंट, बट वो जो सुनने में आता है कि यार बस फीलिंग नहीं आ रही है, मतलब it's the same thing, like we want to do something else, and I'm like, we are doing something else every single day. So how do you, like, आप जब teams के साथ काम करती हैं, like overall like well-being है, professional development है, तो उसमें how do you, like, what is your sort of thought process?
So I think one thing that Lipton is hugely committed to ensuring employee development, and taking well-being alongside. Ever since our inception, 2 years back, right from the very start, we started focusing, as to how we can help employees grow. You spoke about Gen Z and, the youngsters that we have. Knowing this reality that, we want to tap into the potential of this young lot, we were, creative with our terms and conditions in terms of, providing flexibility to people in terms of working hours, in terms of working from a different location, or working part-time, simply, doing something else in the afternoon and working just, in the first half. So I think it's very important to understand that, whether it's a woman or whether it's a young person, a Gen Z, for example, we have to, modify our working environment accordingly so that we're able to tap their potential accordingly. And that's exactly what we have done at Lipton. And I think it's definitely helping us a lot.
Overall, आपको क्या लगता है कि जो Gen Z की critique है towards the overall corporate sector हो या generally काम के अंदर, like what are the big 4-5 things कि यार उनको काम जहाँ वो करते हैं या generally in the working world उन्हें चाहिए होती हैं?
I think one thing which I've noticed is that they get bored pretty quickly. They need to do, new things on a regular basis. Compared to us, where we, would easily do one role for over 2 years, they need to do new things. So how we look into it now is that we involve them in smaller projects or bigger projects alongside their role that they are doing. Also, we open up, whenever we have any roles available, vacancies, or whether it's a new role, we open it up to the entire organization. So if anyone wants to apply, they're free to do that. So I think that's one thing. And another thing is they want to work on their own terms a little, in terms of they want a lot of flexibility. Yes. So I think, but that is something we've adopted as a culture for Lipton overall. We are open to, having flexible hours because we want to make sure people are able to, balance their home and personal life. And flexibility plays a major role in that.
Do you think there is this, बल्कि फरहीन आपसे भी, because आपने तो काफ़ी की है, work-life balance, is this a myth? Is this like possible hai, nahi hai?
It's absolutely not a myth. Again, I don't really want to presume that I can answer on behalf of every woman who is in the corporate world or is working. Corporate क्यों? हमारे पास बहुत सारी ऐसी औरतें हैं जो actually everyday fields में काम कर रही होती हैं. We are very closely entrenched to the tea gardens that we have in Sri Lanka and in Bangladesh, and those are predominantly run by women. Throughout the hierarchy, it's just women, right? So even going beyond corporate, मुझे किसी और के behalf पे ये नहीं commit करना है कि नहीं जी, definitely work-life balance can happen. For myself, I not only think it's possible, I'm very proud of the fact that if you put your mind to it and you actually say, yes, I will wrap up at 5:30, So again, flexibility means work-life balance. There's no old-fashioned traditional definition of 9 to 5 में काम करती हूँ, जब मैं 5:30 बजे घर आती हूँ, and then I'm only a mom. That has changed tremendously over the last 20 years. And I think COVID made us very used to the virtual kind of connect that we're always, kind of involved in. For me, it means I work when I have the opportunity of bringing the best of myself to my work. And I'm a mom and a wife when it is my time and I have that time to be the best that I can be as a wife and as a mom. So I'll give you an example. My very traditional day would be 9 to 5:30, 6 o'clock. I don't think I ever am at work beyond 7 o'clock, right? 7, I'll go home. I'm dedicatedly with my family till about 10:30, 11 o'clock. I will get back on my mails. And आजकल mails का मतलब ये नहीं कि आप दोबारा laptop खोलें, whatever. Everything is on my phone. I'm on my smartphone till, let's say, about 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I'm back at work in the morning. I travel quite a lot. Every time I'm taking a flight, it's about 2-3 hours of that peace of mind for me to not only do a lot of corporate work, so to speak, office work. I actually organize a lot of my son's life also. When I'm traveling, उनके क्या tuitions हैं, उनके कौन से college applications आने हैं, कौन सी universities को check out करना है. That is my time while I might be quote unquote on a trip for business reasons. That is my opportunity of just peaceful time, 4-5 घंटे, to the extent that my team is always laughing. And the moment they get a lot of emails from me, they say, we know you've actually been traveling, right? So again, work-life balance should not be dictated by what the world feels is the ideal time for a woman to work or not to work. As Lipton, I'm extremely proud of the fact that we have some very critical roles. Like our head of communication is a woman who does, work as it entails during her work pattern. She doesn't have a typical 9 to 5 stance of working life. We actually have a senior brand manager and almost, thrusting forward into a marketing manager position who started off doing flexible hours. So हमारे पास ना सिर्फ ये as a theme हम believe करते हैं, हमने prove किया इस organization में over the last 2 years that bring in women who are passionate about their careers. Don't give them a band of 9 to 5. Tell them what's the output expected from them. If the output is coming in, that's the impact that we require from them. It doesn't matter whether they work at midnight, they work at 4 a.m., they work at 4 p.m. ये चीजें, and I don't even think it's Gen Z. Talha, you keep saying you've been doing this for very long, which is quite embarrassing. But I am actually the oldest on my board. My average board age, pure board of directors of Lipton, is about 42, 43, and I'm pulling it up to that level. The majority of them are actually millennials. So जब आप खुद millennial हैं, तो आपको Gen Z इतने ज़्यादा dramatically different नहीं लग रहे, because even the millennials are asking for, we can travel whenever we want to. We can sleep in if you want to, till 11 o'clock, because then we're working till 11 p.m. That's fine. I think the organizations that are still stuck in the slightly more old-fashioned ways of evaluating people, they're looking at numeric numbers of hours being spent. Our organization is very quickly moving into that area of let's measure very quantifiably, very smartly, what is the output from each individual. And not everybody can deal with that flexibility. We've seen some failures also on that flexibility. But to be very honest, if we hire 10 people on flexibility, 8 are actually thriving. Only 2 or 3 out of those 10 are actually, kind of plummeting because of that flexibility. So we've had a great experience on that so far.
Sure. Mehreen, मैं थोड़ा आपके पास आऊँगा. हम लोगों ने अक्सर अगेन डिबेट में देखते हैं कि जो डिजिटल स्पेसेस पे हो रही है सेफ स्पेसेस के हवाले से, अगेन नॉट जस्ट इन द कॉर्पोरेट, जनरली विद इन द सोसाइटी, बिकॉज जिस तरफ हम लोग जा रहे हैं, रिसेंटली भी हमने वो जो पुलिस खातून हैं पंजाब में उनकी एग्जांपल देखी. व्हाट इज़ योर सॉर्ट ऑफ ओवरऑल एक्सपीरियंस अगेन कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड के अंदर? हम लोगों ने अगेन टॉक्सिसिटी की बात की शुरू में, बहुत ज़्यादा स्टोरी सुनने में आती हैं. मतलब अक्सर लोग जो स्टार्टअप वर्ल्ड की तरफ आ रहे हैं, मेरे ख्याल से दैट वाज वन ऑफ द रीज़न कि यार कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड के अंदर ये होता है, ऐसे होता है. बट ओवरऑल वो वाली अब पूरा का पूरा लैंडस्केप आपको कैसे लगता है चेंज हुआ है, और एक सेफ स्पेसेस ख़वातीन के लिए किस तरह बन रही है?
जी, सो दैट्स समथिंग दैट्स वेरी वेरी personally something I feel very strongly about, being in the society, being a woman. And luckily enough, the organization that we are in, first of all, being led by a woman, and like Farheen and Mehwish told you that we have a lot of women in the organization, leading a lot of roles. So yes, this is a company which is kind of walking the talk of how do you create a safe space for women where they can bring in their full potential. And that's the only way, a company can grow. You bring in creativity, you bring in that diverse potential. But there is a lot of scope within our company and in the larger scheme of things, जो हमारी local landscape है, corporate landscape. अभी भी, so I think things like safe spaces for women should not just be जब कोई ऐसा वाक़या हो जाता है, like the one that you referred to, तो वो highlight हो जाए. It shouldn't be just a fad or a topic for a specific march or protest. This is something that should be integrated into the infrastructure of companies. This is something that should be at the top of the agenda, not something at the bottom of agenda for every company. In two ways, in two layers. One is the infrastructure. For instance, what do women do if they face such a situation? Is there a helpline? How do they speak up? And the second is the cultural, a culture of well-being, where a woman knows that this is a company, and the culture of the women and the men know कि ये एक वो culture है जिसमें women are valued, and this will be a safe space for them. So on two levels, this needs to be ingrained. So to wrap it up, I think Lipton is at a very good place, needs to take it forward, and we must help the entire landscape. With a female president, I think all the more, like Farheen said, pay back to the society to lead this agenda and not let it be, become diluted.
Sorry, Humna, मैं आपके तरफ आऊँगा. How does it feel as a female president के नीचे उस तरह का? Because I think उसमें भी बहुत ज़्यादा impacts are when the leadership is, a woman. उसका किस तरह impact आपके ख्याल से पूरी organization के ऊपर? Then how's your experience?
Absolutely. I think, Lipton, we are very fortunate that, we have a female president because, of course, we are a new company, and what we've consciously focused toward is building an inclusive and a very supportive culture, right? And that sort of culture sort of automatically, trickles down from the management team. Be it Farheen, be it Mehwish. Of course, when you talk about, initiatives or, things that, we have implemented as an organization. Over here, employee well-being, especially for women, because of course, women, we have different pressures of society, of doing well at work, doing well at home. So, usko, keeping that in mind, of course, our leaders, our line managers are equipped where, we've normalized conversations around mental health, or, if there's any support that is required, from our line managers or other employees. We are also consciously working towards lean in circles where women who are supposedly going through something, and they can reach out to other women within the organization for help, or perhaps someone just to speak and just to talk it out too.
Sorry, Leena, I want to come to you. आपने again, because it's the start of your career, आपके ख्याल से क्या ज़्यादा बड़े challenges आपको face, not like आपको directly but generally work space के अंदर अभी भी आपको लगता है कि corporate sector में आते हैं, या आपके colleagues की तरफ से आपको सुनने में आती हैं चीज़ें?
So I think this is a very subjective question. If I were to talk about myself in terms of challenges, I would say that for me, even if I'm happy at a workplace, the pressure doesn't necessarily has to come from the workplace, but it could also be your home as well. Maybe if you're not doing mentally okay, then you can face some challenges which can result and impact your work. So I think in terms of that, the workplaces have to also, kind of really focus on how they can support people who are not mentally doing okay. It doesn't always have to be, the pressure doesn't always have to come from work only. So yeah. That is correct.
Right. आप लोगों ने, do you guys have any sort of system to know? ठीक है, HR एक वो होता तो है कि जी that's their role, but overall कि पूरी organization के अंदर, because you have a lot of people working, कि यार well-being कैसी है, बिकॉज आजकल आपको पता है मेंटल हेल्थ और ये सारी चीज़ें, बिकॉज प्रॉब्ली आज से 15-20 साल पहले तो मेरे ख्याल से कॉन्सेप्ट भी इतना ज़्यादा उस तरह नहीं था. अब ये कॉन्वर्सेशन एटलीस्ट शुरू हुई है, तो आप लोग अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कैसे इसको देख रहे हैं?
While we do have a structure of how medical testing is done, there is a doctor on board who is perpetually around and very hands-on with the organization. This is something that any large organization can offer. I think there's a little bit of a uniqueness to what we bring to the table, or at least over my 20 years or 24 years of an experience, I'm finding this for the first time almost the magic of being a very tightly knit organization. We're actually not as large as a lot of other big multinationals. We're mashallah, a 45 billion, rupees organization, and we're not as large as a lot of the others who might be half a 100 billion organization. We keep that tightness because we actually know each other. I'm not at all saying myself and Mehwish would know everybody, but whatever we do at the top layer, we know our extended LT very, very personally, very much on a one-on-one versus somebody working randomly out of, let's say, Islamabad or Lahore. The more we show that connection, the more we show that bonding and genuine bonding, the more the extended LT then shows it to the layer below, and then the layer all the way down to the entry level. Processes will always be supportive, but the actual difference, I think, is created not by processes. अगर हम कहें जी एक दफ़ा annual medical होता है जी आपके पास एक we can have a counselor, which we do, who can be provided to you if you're facing some mental issues, mental wellness challenges. All of that every company can do. We need to step up a little bit beyond that. Within that structure, is there a human face to the support that somebody is being given, women or men? I think that makes a huge difference. This is an organization where recently, unfortunately, we've had two of our team members lose some very loved ones. One lost her husband, another one lost his dad. I know how the organization stepped up. We were involved not just only, let's say, in attending of a funeral. We were actually there almost weekly with a person who was going through, a very unfortunate early widowhood. And that is what gives the, a face and a personal connect to the structures that a lot of organizations can offer. मैं जितनी organizations को पाकिस्तान में जानती हूँ जिनके पास ये सब चीज़ों की evaluation, चाहे वो mental well-being हो, चाहे वो physical well-being हो, चाहे वो emotional well-being हो, चाहे वो social well-being हो, उनके सब domains available होते हैं for support at a global level. I don't know many people who will call up a global counselor to talk about my mother-in-law is unwell, or to talk about my husband's passed away and my kids are really insecure about their future. Those things can only be said and dealt with when you're sitting with a friend and you're talking to a friend. So what we measure, by the way, there is an annual measure of Gallup that we do with our organization that actually asks everyone at Lipton, do you have a best friend at work? And to be very honest, Talha, initially when I was told that that's an assessment that we will do of the organization, this was a global mandate, I thought best friend? I mean, I've never gone to work, to be with a best friend. You'll be really surprised. 45% of BSPAN, which is Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, has actually come back, 43 to be exact, saying they have a best friend at work. So that culture, way more beyond the processes and the medical checkups and the facilities. Those facilities are required as an infrastructure and are there with Lipton and are there for many other multinationals. The personal connect and the personal face to that structure is really what makes us a little bit more magical.
I think बाहर की एक organization थी, I follow this entrepreneur Gary Vaynerchuk. So it's a media company. So they have hired someone और उसका role उन्होंने chief heart officer रखा. And that was the whole, I think, sort of point, more of a HR, but ज़रा उसको इतना humanize करके वो I think उन्होंने position
So
किया.
we actually call our HR people and organization, and the head of HR is called the head of people and not the head of HR. And these small nuances do matter because it's what is HR? Human resource? I mean, it's human beings, right? It's people. So I think, and whatever I'm commenting on is actually live examples only of the last 24 months that we've been an independent company of people reaching out for not in particular a mental, struggle, But just saying, I'm finding this work difficult, I'm finding a new marriage, or I'm finding an unwell, mother-in-law to be a complication with my work. What can I be offered? Individually, we've gone to each one of those cases, and we have been able to, alhamdulillah, so far we've been able to provide them with the flexibility. And I will tell you, Talha, it's we of course we are running a commercial organization. There is an output that's required from every entity that is part of our organization. That is how value is created. The value that we provide for those resources and those people, they pay back in multiple more times. The kind of commitment that I see from women who've been given the flexibility of doing as many hours as they find, convenient. If their kids are if the mothers are required at an interview for their kids, they're available. If the kids need to be taken to a mom and dad workshop, the mothers are available. You see those moms actually working a lot more and a lot more committedly. And I think that is something our society unfortunately ignores. I think men around us, and again, unfortunately, will only comment on, बट वो कम घंटे ऑफिस में होती हैं और वो तो बहुत बच्चों में बिजी हैं, उनके तो सास ससुर के साथ हमेशा बहुत प्रॉब्लम्स रहती हैं. Move beyond that. When you've given that flexibility of somebody to say, take extra hours, stay at home the next 1 month because your mother-in-law is unwell. You see what they do when they come back after a month. This woman that I'm talking about, it was a very unfortunate death, very young, widow. She actually said, when I was at the funeral, I couldn't believe that her family was actually concerned about ye iddat kar sakegi ke nahi. It's a very personal thing for me. People were approaching me and saying, Farheen hai, aap Lipton manage karti hain, ye iddat puri kar sakegi ke nahi. In my mind, there is no possibility of anyone at Lipton not being able to do what they religiously feel they have to do for earning money. No way. And not a single day has she not been available for the organization. She's been doing her iddat, and she has been very participative in everything that my organization does. And I know once she's fully back, beyond the virtual hours that she's connected with us, beyond the iddat, I know that person will be heart and soul Lipton, and that matters more than, the fear कि but by the way इद्दत में कोई 3.5-4 महीने हमारे पास नहीं हो सकेगा. Those are very those are very corporate definitions of who's available, who's not. So really owning the minds, hearts and emotions of somebody are so much more important than saying who is that person as an entity or as a resource in the organization.
Absolutely. Mehreen, आपने भी बीच में काफ़ी गैप लिया. फैमिली सपोर्ट आपको क्या लगता है कि वो कितना बड़ा एक not just the motivation but like the most important thing, because a lot of times at least millennial में भी और Gen Z में भी I think हम बचपन सुनते आ रहे हैं कि माँ बाप या तो डॉक्टर बनाना चाहते हैं या लॉयर बनाना चाहते हैं. लोग आजकल भी मैं इतने लोगों को जानता हूँ वो काम कुछ कर रहे हैं बट उनका पैशन कुछ और है और फिर लाइक कैरियर चेंज हो रही हैं. लाइक देयर इज सो मच, और उसमें ज़ाहिर है फैमिली का बहुत बड़ा रोल होता है. अम्मा अब्बा ने कह दिया था, मैंने ये कर लिया. और जनरली जो है ओवरऑल सपोर्ट, स्पेशली एज अ खातून, जब एक फैमिली भी हैं, बच्चे भी हैं, हस्बैंड भी है, उस पूरी चीज़ को आपकी कैरियर के अंदर आपने उस कैसे देखा?
So just to highlight this a little more, जो आपने कहा कि मेरा एक यूनिक सिचुएशन थी where I was doing very well. I was very happy at where I was, being a brand manager on some, power brands, so to speak. जहाँ मुझे एक prioritize करना पड़ा एक situation में where I had twin children and one of them had some health challenges. तो एक मुझे decision लेना पड़ा. And once I took that sabbatical, और जब वो sabbatical, I started off thinking it's going to be a couple of years went to more years, and I thought this is it. I mean, there's no going back because that's how it is. But in अच्छी चीज़ ये है, and we are in such good times कि, Lipton had this whole program जहाँ पे which is specifically for women who have to take a career break किसी भी वजह से, फैमिली में, पेरेंट्स की वजह से, बच्चों की वजह से, अगर वो वापस आना चाहें उस ब्रेक के बाद. And that program supports that, where you can ease in with flexi hours. And I took that opportunity, and I think Farheen and Mehwish, these are the people who are actually making a difference, because I always say this, that they had more confidence in me at that point in time than I had in myself. So first of all, that is like a huge example for anybody. I think that the world has moved ahead from linear progression in on the resume in your career to skill and capability set. If somebody suits that, then they can come in for that. A. B, family support, yes, because my journey is quite long also. I have learned that family support is extremely critical, and it goes both ways. So when I came back, other than support from the organization, for example, my spouse, and obviously that has to be the biggest support. He was the one who kind of told me to just hang in there, it'll be okay. But what I also learned was that we as women have to reach out. And I read this somewhere and I really struck a chord ke ye question hum puchte na ki can women have it all? So we don't know yes or no. But are women doing it all? Yes. Because more than anybody else, hum apne aap ko prove karna chahte hain कि I can do everything. I am the one who is judging myself the most. That's our biggest battle before we come to the men in the society. So we have to communicate with our families, with our extended families, that I'm feeling overwhelmed. And they say it takes a village. It definitely takes a village or two to raise a child. And there is no shame in asking for that help. And only we have to reach out and express it and, have those boundaries. And it is only with that support that, because there's no superhuman being. And even when we say, families in which we say that symmetrical families and husband and wife are both working, the women are definitely picking up a lot more workload. The dental appointments, वो hidden work होता है. The emotional well-being, women are doing that. तो वो हम जब उसको समझेंगे और communicate करेंगे और help भी seek करेंगे, only then it will become easier. उसके बगैर it is impossible because, like I said, there is no super human being. So yes, family support, support at the organization, and helping yourself, all of them go hand in hand.
मेहरीन, मैं आपकी तरफ आऊँगा. थोड़ा सा मुझे बताएं कि ओवरऑल कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड के अंदर जब आप एक स्पेशली कैरियर ग्रोथ की तरफ जा रहे हैं, उस साइड पे आपको क्या लगता है कि ख़वातीन को ज़्यादा किस किस्म के मसाइल हैं अगेन कंपेयर टू द मेल कॉलीग्स? उसमें बेशक वो प्रमोशंस हैं, उसमें हर तरह की जो चीज़ आती है, ओवरऑल आपकी ओवरऑल जर्नी में या जनरली जो आपको स्टोरीज मिलती हैं, किस किस्म का ज़्यादा चैलेंजेस आते हैं?
So Talha, अगर हम अपने, if we talk about the culture that has come through to us, so women and corporate, that hasn't gone together since a very long time. Now things are changing, but अगर एक female एक corporate role accept करती है, there's a lot of traditional gender roles that she has to come along with. There's a baggage of she's a wife, she's a mother, she's a daughter, she's looking after the whole family. तो उसके साथ there's always, so when a single woman, so for example a recent graduate is taking on a role, it's still found easier कि ठीक है, she'll be able to catch up on a lot of things, she'll be able to give more hours because she doesn't have a lot of responsibility. But when a female takes up on these gender roles, then it comes out as कि she won't be able to give much more time to the work. वो 9 to 5 करेगी सिर्फ. She's going to go back home. She won't be available. So I've heard this is something that's right hands on. I've heard for myself that if we pick her up, how will she be available after 5 p.m. अगर हमें कुछ चाहिए होगा? So these are the perceptional or gender biases that we as females face, be it not just corporate but other areas as well. Corporate is one of those very hard throat culture where it's very difficult for females to capture. उसके अलावा भी when we move up to leadership roles, there's always a question whether she'll be able to give up that time, she'll be able to manage a team. उसकी जो capability है उसमें एक बहुत बड़ा question mark आ जाता है because this is something that has been since a very long time एक perception में develop हो चुका है. It's time and time we are improving. Like for example, Lipton has created a culture. We have a female president. It sets a benchmark that now females can go up to those roles. They can look up to being managers. They can look up to being CEOs, CFOs. I, for one, when I started off my I'm from a finance background. So when I started off, one major reason I took up finance was because it was such a taboo that only males can just do finance because late nights hote hain, they have to work overnights, especially audit culture mein. So that was one reason I took up finance, because I wanted to prove that no, females can also do it. It's not just, I don't have to take up science, I don't have to take up arts to just prove that I can work. I can show them by being a finance female. And that's something that over time has helped me. I did face a lot of challenges, but I think I have a wonderful team. My own manager, I have like a set of 1:10 ka ratio is for finance mein, male to females ka. So 10:1 ka. So it's always a struggle daily, but if you have a very good team, if you have good managers who look up to you, who trust you, especially in this whole tenure, I have done work from home as well, but I did not face any challenge, neither from maybe the leadership team or my managers. They were so okay with it because I know my deliverables. So at the end of the day, what matters is, I think हमें एक develop करना पड़ेगा culture, एक mindset develop करना पड़ेगा that you don't always have to be there in office to work. You can work anywhere, anytime. And at the end of the day, a female always gives much more than males. No offense, please, but because like Samreen said, they want to prove themselves. We are our own judge. We want to give so much more. So at the end of the day, you will always find more output from females than you will find from males any day.
But why do you think it like, is there any study as well कि ख़वातीन ज़्यादा मेहनत करती हैं work spaces के अंदर?
Because we have to prove more, right? Males don't have to prove. They set benchmark.
But if they also have to go like, on the top.
But it's a natural perception, right? That males eventually has to go. अगर नहीं होगी कोई female, तो males, out of the 10, one has to go up, right? A female out of those 10 people has to prove herself that versus those 10 people, she is capable to get up there. So it's always a hard work that a female has to do.
I think this discussion is quite a MBA crash course for me. There is a lot to.
I just want to build on one point जो आप पूछ रहे हैं ना कि देखिए होता यह है कि majority की वजह से it is the male work pattern that we've all internalized, the image, the icon of the corporate person, the man with the briefcase. So what I think, which is a learning for me also, and the newer generation, that's the way they're going to start off with, is that we will make our own, we will not fit into the patterns made by men. For example, men can very easily maybe just chit chat for an hour or two and then sit till 8 p.m. because that's okay for them. But women now are making their own patterns of work that, I am very, very focused and I'm very structured and I start work at 9 and this is the way I structure my work. So I think we are now realizing as women, and I think I speak for all women when I say this, hopefully, that we are not trying to fit into the, it's equity that's there, and we give our best in our own way rather than just trying to live up to a certain standard that, that's there.
One other thing, I was just sitting with someone, काफ़ी successful उन्होंने business खड़े किए, सारा कुछ किया, GenZ के साथ काफ़ी काम है, और एक चीज़ उन्होंने मुझे कही which like got sort of stuck with me कि we are not preparing our जो GenZ है उनको corporate leaders की तरफ लेके जाने वाला जो पूरा का पूरा ecosystem है, because पहले में तो था कि ज़ाहिर है आप में मेहनत भी थी, ये सारा कुछ था, but GenZ को do you feel like कि हम लोग prepare कर रहे हैं या उन like what are like the big sort of challenges?
Like in Gen Z, again, my very limited comment on that. I'm bringing up two Gen Zs. They're not about titles. They're not about ranking. In fact, the more you tell them about ranks, the more they will shy away from such traditional roles. Is there something called corporate leadership that a Gen Z would be enamored by? Not at all. Okay. At least that's my experience. They want experiences. They want to get and gain more. They want to develop themselves more. They want to have bigger imprint of what they can offer to society and community, and they genuinely want to gather experiences. For that, we'll also have to move away from very traditional definitions of what they can do. Rather than, बहुत ज़्यादा corporate में ये, the people who are like me on the higher side of the 40s who are saying, but millennials and Gen Z, ज़्यादा काम नहीं करना चाह रहे, वो तो time पे नहीं आते. That is valid because our traditional values of how we, went up, the hierarchy is very different from how they want to go up the hierarchy. In fact, they don't want to go up the hierarchy. They want to capture experiences, whether that entails moving up the corporate ladder or not. The corporate ladder, as a definition, is very I think the early 19th and the middle 19th century, to be very honest, उन लोगों को experiences चाहिए हमें, rather than arguing over, but वो हम traditional patterns पे नहीं fit हो रहे. Somewhere we need to open our minds up as the more traditional side of corporate, as the older side of corporate to say, but these people come in with a lot more passion, a lot more understanding of the future of this world overall. They come, by the way, with a lot more cleanliness of thought than a lot of us who are, now hitting a slightly older age and are becoming cynical. For me, for my organization and I to benefit the best from the Gen Z, do I sit in a corner and comment upon them, or do I really integrate them on their wishes into my organization? We're trying. Again, we don't have, this is an experimentation that we're doing. We're almost trying to create, I don't want to say something big, but the only Google I know in Pakistan, in a very typical corporate setting, is Lipton right now, because people are working according to their own hours. People are working at a workplace which doesn't have any definitions of titles and work levels. Everybody's working in squads and from a mindset of being together and really getting to, behind a mission. If it's successful, a big part of that will be because we're not putting down the same older corporate traditions on young millennials and Gen Z.
Humna, मैं आपकी तरफ आऊँगा. Let's say if you have to give advice to the young people जो अभी graduate हो रहे हैं, corporate world में आना चाह रहे हैं, what are the 3 to 5 sort of things they need to develop कि maximum like अपना ladder को जितना जल्दी वो उससे cross कर सकें?
I think one advice that even employees, Gen Z specifically, who are with Lipton, I always tell them to have an open mind. Right? Because even, with the changing business dynamics, let's suppose, if someone is in one particular role and after 6 to 7 months, the requirement changes, right? The business requirement changes. So, you need to be flexible, you need to be agile in transforming into a different role, with different expectations. So always, and I think, with Gen Zs, that's what they want as well, right? They want flexibility and they want to try and test new things. So I think primarily one advice I would give is that, be open and, just take everything as a challenge and thrive.
Say, Mehwish, maybe what would be your sort of 2-3 things to the young generation, especially जो लोग अभी corporate world में आ रहे हैं?
I think, like Humna said, I think being open to new experiences and challenges is very important. I think the corporate world does have a certain perception attached to it. And like Leena mentioned, it was different when she joined in. So I think having a growth mindset, taking up new experiences, taking up new challenges, that's very important. Showing agility and also showing flexibility, right? Because you can't really stick to just your stance and think that it will work, because at the end of the day, you're supposed to work together as a team and get to a mutual goal. So I think having a growth mindset, an open mindset, and being flexible and adopting, to the changing environment definitely helps.
So, Farheen, आपका क्या?
Again, first and foremost, the only advice I would give them is that they need to be focused on what they bring to the table and leave the corporate side to manage its own balance or equitable balance between women and men. The more young women will get absorbed into the whole conversation around will there be a bias, the more I believe they will believe there is a bias. First and foremost, just assume there is no bias.
Well, you're putting that energy out.
Bilkul. And where you feel, and also let's not be stupid about it. If once you've taken that first step, and once you've gotten into, the corporate side of life, speak out. Wherever you feel there is a gender bias, I'm not at all presuming that there isn't. But I'm also cautioning against, and I'm cautioning youngsters against, don't assume there is. Because certain conversations ka starting point ye hota hai, but of course I did not get this opportunity because I'm a woman. No, let's also open up our minds to say, did you speak out to say you want that opportunity, number 1? Did you look at whether you're capable of that opportunity, number 2? Number 3, did you look at a match of your current, status of life with the opportunity that's opening up? All of that is important versus a phenomena of, but the world is, not equal. Pehla plunge le lein, and then have the confidence to speak out when things aren't according to where you feel there is a bias, where there might be an infrastructural error in the way that organization is set up. Again, in total honesty, we've actually not opened up a Pandora's box of saleswomen in our organization because we're still sorting out the structural nuances of sales and even supply chain for that matter. We have a factory in Khanewal. We're very well aware, while of course there's a lot of motivation to get women into the Khanewal factory, we will need to sort out our internal systems, processes, infrastructure to not only bring women there, to make them successful there. Similarly on sales, our organization is spread out all over Pakistan from Khyber from Karachi to Khyber. Are we immediately getting into let's put another 10 women into sales? Not at all. We're taking one step at a time of ensuring that we can have a system where women are successful. So I think the nuance of a young woman joining Lipton or any other corporate for that matter is again a partnership. The partnership of the organization with that resource who says, I'm going to believe there is no bias. I'm going to do the best I can for this organization in terms of impact. And the organization then steps forward and says, I will do the best I can as an organization to make you succeed. दोनों की तरफ से वो स्टेप होना चाहिए. एक की तरफ से स्टेप होते रहेंगे, फिर भी कोई फायदा नहीं होगा.
सही. Mehreen.
So I think Gen Z and women particularly, yes, the fact that it is very, very important. I think this is more for girls and women to first deal with yourself. Look after your well-being, emotional and physical. Know your boundaries. Express yourself. Know what your dreams are. So I think it's very, very important to know yourself each step of the way. And other than that, I think when you speak about Gen Z, and then it's always a blend, yeah. One generation, they always work together. You take something from the youngsters, and then they take something from the older generation. I think, like Farheen said, the fact that this generation is not so much about titles and is something that we can take to break away from these things. And there's some certain things like what you mentioned about hard work and good old fashion disciplinary approach. That's something that generation can take. So I think it's always a give and take and a blend of what both can offer to each other.
Leena, आपने तो अभी recently, not recent, but very fresh in the new career. आपके जो colleagues हैं या जो अभी graduate हो रहे हैं बच्चे, आपका सारा experience is very different. तो आपकी क्या उनके लिए advice होगी?
Again, so like I've been in the corporate for 1.5 years now. So I will definitely say that, do not be afraid to challenge the status quo and always advocate for your rights. And also, when you speak for your rights in your workplace, you're also building an inclusive future for everyone else. So always, speak for yourself. And also, like Farheen mentioned, be very clear in your head in terms of what you want from the company also. Even at interviews, I've really be very open. I've been very open about my expectations. So I think the more clearer you are from inside, that's how you'll be able to give the others also an idea of what you want. So always be very clear.
Say, Mehreen.
Just one thing that I would like to suggest to Gen Z and the new graduates is take everything a bit slow. So right now they just want everything fast, all the returns, sab cheez bahut jaldi chahiye. You need to take a bit slow, put your hard work, and then wait for the results rather than just rushing into it. Because when you're rushing into it, what happens is like you might take wrong decisions, you might take a leap in a direction which might not be good for you. So eventually put your hard work, analyze your situations, try to talk to people who are seniors to you, your mentors, try to understand the situation that you are around, especially in the work culture. And if you're not understanding anything, go up to people, talk to them, figure it out rather than just putting it up in your mind and making a boom out of it. So just analyze and then go slow, and eventually if you put in a hard work, you will get your results. So that is something that is lacking in the new generation, which I would think everybody should start developing.
आप लोगों ने I'm sure Farheen के साथ day to day तो conversations आप करते होंगे, but इनके लिए आपका कोई question हो which maybe you haven't asked, you wanted to ask?
I think I would want to ask her, because of this entire conversation what came up, that have there been point where you have actually felt overwhelmed? And I'm sure they have. And then, so what's the...
Not moments. Every day I feel overwhelmed. And it's okay to feel that. I think I've trained myself to accept that I do want it all. And to getting to the all, in my mind, again, this is not something that I'm expecting the world to provide for me. For my push to want it all, yes, there will be days when, it'll seem like I'm working, maybe 22 hours out of 24. Yes, but it's okay because I know what I need to get out at the end of that road. I'm very crystal clear on what I do want as the journey itself. I'm very proud of the fact that I have boys who are growing up, my sons, who are growing up without any understanding of women not being who I am. And I'm loving that because as two Pakistani boys, I've added back to the next generation 2 men who actually think it's very normal to have a mom who is the CEO or the general manager or president, whatever the title. For them, this is the only way that they know women can be. So that's 2 more additions to a population of 240 million where I've made a change. So as far as you're very clear what your vision is, and the vision is, it can't ever be as minuscule as, but I want a title, or I want a lot of money, or I want to travel a lot. It can't be that. The older you grow, the more your vision becomes something really sustainable and impactful for the world around you. For me, it's very clearly the boys that I'm bringing up. And when I look at them and I see how I am as a mom to them, the whole sense of being overwhelmed is nothing compared to that joy of, looking at being able to be a wife, being able to continuously be a daughter who's responsible for, her mom, to be a mother who can go home and talk about a board meeting. And my sons, as a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old, actually understand some of the conversations. It is just a thrill. So yeah, the overwhelm balances off very well with, the sense of not just achievement, the sense of peace and contentment of being able to achieve something a little bit beyond what a lot of Pakistani women would assume they can achieve. So every day I feel overwhelmed, and every day I go back home and I say, Alhamdulillah, for being able to have this life and to be able to impact so many beyond just myself.
Leena, aapka koi question hai?
Yeah, so I had one question. So, maybe an advice for me in that sense. How do you fight the perception of how people perceive you? Maybe people might think that you just because what you are as a woman versus what you really are, like in workplace. Because for you, I know that you have a lot of experience. People might not perceive you wrong. But for me, if somebody perceives me in a different way in terms of who I really am, how do you fight that perception for somebody who's just starting their career?
And you might not like my answer very much, Leena. I've actually been a very obstinate person all my life. I've not really been very bothered. Of course, there are certain stages of your life and it matters when you are being perceived, and that perception might be incorrect. But I've always been somehow, that's just been ingrained in my mental kind of setup. I'm much more about what can I offer, and if that is misconceived, I will speak up. I've never been bothered about, without my delivery, is somebody perceiving me to be X, Y, Z or Farheen. That's never been something that's deterred me. Maybe that is also a bit wrong in terms of my personality, because there were changes that I should have made way earlier in my career, which I didn't, because I just thought, okay, let the world think whatever they need to. Now, of course, I'm not assuming every woman will be born like that. I luckily was, and I was part of a family that was very clear about the role of women being up there. My father never brought me up as, but these are the restrictions that you'll have to live within. So I've been fortunate that way. I'm not assuming everybody would be that fortunate. But perceptions start off with what the world thinks of you. You need to start off with what do you believe you are. If you're clear on that, automatically those perceptions start to falter away. If you're not very clear, and a lot of women in Pakistan are living such difficult and complicated lives that there is no time for them to really sit down and say, who am I? What am I bringing to my world, to my family, to my kids? Spend that time. The only advice I would ever want to give somebody in their early 20s or late teens, spend some time in knowing yourself. When you know yourself, if somebody is misperceiving you, it's their problem, not yours. But when you don't know yourself, then every misperception or misconception might be seen as the end of the world.
But how to do that? Because that's also one of the things. I know the self-awareness is probably one of the biggest thing. We wali baat hum pehle kar rahe the ki 40 saal बाद लोगों को ख्याल आता है कि यार ये तो मैं करना ही नहीं चाहता था, ये तो you know, but what is your sort of process here and what would be your advice?
So at the tail end of the round table, I will give a lot of credit to the person that I'm very, very fortunate that I ended up marrying. I actually have a best friend as a spouse, and we talk a lot. So when people see me and him together, there's always a comment on, but Farheen बहुत बातें करती है, वो तो बेचारा बिल्कुल चुप ही रहता है, whatever. We actually connect a lot on what do we want from life, what do we want from ourselves, what do we want from each other. When you spend that time, even if it is just half an hour every day, तला somewhere or the other, देखिए self awareness ना किसी, at least मेरे साथ ऐसा नहीं हुआ कि मैं एक दिन बैठी थी और एकदम से सूरज निकला और मैंने कहा now I know this is the imprint I want to make on society or on my organization or on my kids. Those conversations have helped me craft out what is it that makes me happy. Because I genuinely have always believed, if I'm very खोखला inside, अगर मेरे अंदर ही कुछ नहीं है तो मैं ऑफर क्या कर रही हूँ किसी को भी, ना अपनी औलाद को, ना अपने मियाँ को, ना सोसाइटी को, ना अपनी टीम्स को. When I'm very full inside, when I know what Farheen is and what she can offer, and equally what she can't offer. So there might be some demands on my time which might be required for my corporate success, but are just not things that I want to do. There are lots of invites that I have to say no to because either I'm tired of traveling, or my sons have an exam, or my husband has an important meeting that I can't be invisible for. That's fine. So knowing what you will do and what you want really is that starting point, and spending that time just with yourself, just with people that you trust, and talking does actually help. मैं कोई बहुत ही एक expensive coach ही कोई philosophy नहीं आपको offer कर सकती. मैं सिर्फ वो बता रही हूँ जो मेरे साथ मैंने experiment किया है. I consciously take time out to talk to the one person that I totally trust, and I do talk to myself also in terms of, am I happy? The stage of life that I'm at, beyond the titles, beyond the work that I'm doing, I think I ask myself that question almost every 3 months. Am I in a happy state? And if I'm not, will I change what I'm doing? Absolutely yes. So that is the only advice I can give.
There is a lot of
understanding
advice and I think suggestions and in this I think whole discussion. But thank you so much all for taking the time out. And I think you guys should start a show for the other sort of people who are coming into the corporate world, because I feel like a lot of times there is no advice there as well. और वो आपको जिससे मिलती है उसने खुद वो काम नहीं किया होता. मेरे ख्याल से 80% of the ज़िंदगी I think you just spend there, like दिन के probably 60-70%. But thank you again, and it was great talking to you all. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the full video. If you want to see more of such meaningful content, show your support by hitting the subscribe button.